Okay, ladies and gentlemen, come dive into the open minds where you can broaden your perspectives, expand your horizons, and open your eyes to a reality never thought possible. Just remember, once you open that door, there's no going back. I am your host, Robbie Diesel. This is the Open Mind Show, and tonight's episode is Navajo Tribesman with my guest, Garret. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Mr. Robster.
Thank you for coming on, man. It's a pleasure. Uh, so Navajo Tribesman, what exactly is your role in your tribe? What do you do?
Wow, that's um let's say I would say that it's kind of hard to explain that,
Hmm.
because as of the last count, there were at least probably 350,000 enrolled members.
Wow. Wow, that is huge.
Yeah, so the Navajo Nation is the largest.
Hmm.
It, it's one of the largest tribes here in the US.
Okay.
And being part of as an enrolled member, it comes, oh gosh, I don't even know where to begin with this. It's as I'm a tribal member,
Uh-huh.
I got my numbers to show, and I got my card to show them part of it.
Right. He's like, it's true, it's me.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, all right, well, I guess there's a lot of different responsibilities there are, as an ambassador to the people.
Mhm.
One of them primarily is really just to bring a lot of awareness about the spiritual practices and the traditions and the ceremonies that we utilize, that we can work with to help the people, to help not just our tribes people, but also all other peoples of this earth. And
Mhm.
so that's one of the bigger functionalities, I guess you would say, the many responsibilities in which I am holding and carrying in this current time, is being this facilitator to help individuals with their healing practices and their own personal journeys.
That's awesome. So that's something that I take that's handed down generation to generation.
Yes. So with the tribal practices and the ceremonies, a lot of these ceremonies and the way the prayers and songs are conducted are they have an organization that is run by the council that actually services apprenticeships. So they actually have apprentices that are out there who are learning these ceremonies and learning the songs and the chants so that they can continue to keep these ceremonies alive.
Mm. So now, in your opinion, and I don't mean any disrespect by this at all, but like with big numbers of people and many years that go by, I'm sure there's pockets and stuff that get watered down and it's not as traditional or as spot on as what's passed down. So for you, who did you learn from? Would you say that it was probably pretty traditional, or where does that lie?
Well, I always get that question asked. It's like, okay, who's your teacher?
Right.
Who's your teacher? Who did you learn from?
Hmm.
And my answer to this question is always the same. I learned from the earth.
Mm.
And part of these abilities and part of these gifts that were bestowed upon me actually come from blood lineages that I am a descendant from. So the
Wow.
many ancestors before, on my mother's side, they were seers. They were visionaries. They were hands-on healers, and,
Mm.
and also practitioners of the different various ceremonies.
Hmm.
And so when this awareness came into my being back in 2008, I was given that insight that I am a descendant from many different practitioners of that. It's actually literally in my blood.
Right.
So being part of this, there's a lot of responsibility with it. So
Yeah.
when it comes to knowing, oh, okay, it's in your blood. So, well, how do I go about utilizing these abilities? So I know I've done this role many times before.
Hmm.
And so a lot of it comes from just memories, access to different memories and different functionalities that are given to me by I call them helpers. So the
Right.
different spiritual guides and the different ancestors that are there. So early on in the practice, in my awareness, it was a lot of the tribesmen, ancestors, my grandmothers and grandfathers, and
Mm,
they were in spirit form. And
okay.
they came to me in spirit form, and they were the ones that were more or less helping me to realize the potential that I had to assist the peoples. And also too, I had variation teachers that were from the animal kingdoms. And
Mm,
so one of the main functionalities there was the eagles. The eagles were very strong teachers to me early on in my awareness.
wow. So that's almost kind of like you would say a spiritual awakening.
Yes.
Is that
So,
okay?
yes. So in 2008, I did have my spiritual awakening.
Mm-hmm.
This is where there's a whole story behind it, but a lot of what happened during that time was I was communicating with my nephew before he was even born. He was still in my sister's womb. He would visit me in the dream time and tell me about how he was coming along, some of the things that he was meant to do on this earth, and also too with the pregnancy, what was he was here to do. And so that coincided with my dreaming space, as I call it, the dream time is when,
Mm,
in which I was very much remembering a lot of the dreams that I was having at the time. And also too, I was having this energy that was radiating out of my hands.
wow. That is amazing. So that if when all this stuff is going on, new to your spiritual awakening or like before it, was it kind of like was it a shocker to you or was it like something that just like felt natural, like it was normal?
It felt normal and natural, and
Hmm.
that's where I can certainly credit my upbringing, amongst the Navajo tradition,
Right.
because the people and the culture have always supported a lot of the spiritual practices within their norm. It was considered a normal practice. It was considered not organized. It was not an organized religion. It was a practice. It was
Hmm.
participated by every member, through ceremonies, through getting up early in the morning to pray at dawn, walking to the east. And so there was this awareness that was always there. And so, with that support, that's where I give a lot of credit to the tradition itself, because I saw a lot of things growing up
Hmm.
that, as far, especially with the healing, the different various modalities that are there, that that are performed on the reservation. And by witnessing this as a child, I always knew that there was bigger things that were beyond the norm, beyond reality,
Right.
beyond what my perception of reality is and still
Mm,
continues to be, right? And so with that awareness and with that background, I always kind of felt that I knew that there was a lot of um, things that were not explained,
hmm.
but miracles happened and miraculous healings did happen,
Right.
and things that our rationale couldn't even begin, to understand what exactly is going on. That
Hmm.
was always possible. So the possibility was always there for me. And so that was something that definitely, when I reflect back, I recognize, like, acknowledge the tradition for providing that foundation for me.
Wow. Yeah, I feel like if somebody was what you would consider an outsider and they don't practice that in their everyday life, they would be a
Mhm.
skeptic or wouldn't believe it unless they saw it. But like you said, it's one of those things where like it doesn't need an explanation. You witness it, you feel it, you see it to some extent, so you know it's there. Um,
Exactly.
I think that's very cool. I'm grateful enough to have an open mind and to have experienced stuff like that myself, not even being Native American or anything like that. So I'm very blessed for that. And I'm glad that like-minded people like you can second what I've been through, and it doesn't make me seem all crazy and like, oh, you're losing your mind. So that's
Yes.
very cool. So, what you were referring to, and we'll probably get into this later, but when you talked about healing, are you talking about like holistic medicine and like rituals and stuff like that?
Yes, so a lot of the ceremonial practices, unfortunately, they're dwindling and dwindling and dwindling,
Hmm.
but there's still a large group that does practice the traditional ceremonies there on the reservation, um, and they utilize these in their everyday practice, to assist depending on, I guess you would say, what's needed for
Hmm.
that person. And so for me, when the awakening happened, I was given awareness from my uncle at the time. He validated for me, so he was one of more or less a mentor.
Hmm.
So he validated for me that I had these abilities, and one of the things that was known for was as a seer. So meaning that
Mm.
ability was here in this part of the body. He pointed straight up to this part of the body and said, "This is where your sight is. This is where you'll be able to see and
Wow.
help a lot of people." And so with one of the things that they do down there is they diagnose sickness and healing utilizing these abilities. So
Hmm.
they work with either crystals, or they work with coals, live coals,
Mm.
and utilize this to assist and diagnose. It's kind of like as a diagnose tool. Just
Hmm.
like you would go get an X-ray, you would get an X-ray,
Right.
or you would go get an MRI. It was
Right.
it's no different. So a lot of the ceremonial practitioners who are known as the diagnosticians, they utilize these practices and utilize these gifts to basically say, okay, this is what's going on in your body, but somewhere in your history, they were able to look into someone's history, their energetic signature, and they
Mm.
could see where certain things happen. Maybe they abused nature of some kind, or maybe they said something they shouldn't have said. And so that's where the concept and the awareness around the spiritual practice of what they call Sa'ah Nagay B'Kahojon, which is in long life and everlasting beauty, the concept of maintaining Hojon, like walking in beauty and in balance and reciprocity and harmony with yourself. It's
Uh-huh.
always yourself first, and then with your environment, with each other, within nature. And whenever there's an off balance with one of these things, that's what causes sickness.
Yeah.
So the ceremonies and the songs and prayers are basically performed to put this person back into harmony.
Wow. When you pointed to that and you said that your uncle pointed to that, that reminds me of the third eye, like the pineal
Yes.
gland. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I've always been a believer too. You can't help somebody if you haven't helped yourself either. So that's right on, dude. That's so fucking cool. And you guys have a ritual because everybody's human, everybody has stuff that goes on and they get out of alignment. So that's very cool that you guys have something that, hey, let's bring it back in and get right back on the path.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. So,
what
like I
uh
said,
what region is the Navajo tribe from
it's
predominantly?
so the reservation is located in the Four Corners area of the United States.
Okay.
And so that's the Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Colorado.
Right.
The reservation itself is the three states: Utah, Arizona, and New Mexico. The
Okay.
majority of the res is housed in Arizona, so it's right there in northeastern Arizona. And it's they compare it to the state of West Virginia. That's how big
Wow.
it is. And it takes about, from one end, from the east side of the res going to the west side, probably about 8 hours. It's
Wow.
long.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's a lot of land. It's the largest reservation from the land mass,
Hmm.
from the land scale. I think population wise, we probably hit 400,000 just fairly recently because
Mm.
of the whole COVID thing. So they did some reassessment with regards to the census. So I think the tribal membership has increased a lot.
So are you on the tribe or no?
I don't live on the reservation. I live here in Colorado, but
Okay.
I still have a lot of family who lives there.
Hmm.
And I'll go back to visit.
Right.
And I tend to take a lot of not outsiders to to come visit the lands too, because this is, I guess you could say, where we get into the more paranormal realm.
Yeah.
A lot of the excursions that I take to outsiders to bring to the reservation to experience not only, the natural setting and the beauty of what the land has to offer, but also to have their experience, to
Mm,
have their experience connecting to the land, but primarily to connect with the Sasquatch people. So this is
wow.
one of the things that for me, and this is kind of where also too, I cross taboo lines, because from a traditional standpoint, you don't talk about these things. You don't talk about paranormal things, even though they exist very strongly, because, I think you might have mentioned earlier something about the label of being crazy.
Right.
So that awareness, sometimes it's because I guess the people know, the elders know, the culture knows it's there, it's in existence,
Hmm.
but because, the outside reality and the outside norm hasn't really welcomed it with open arms, that's where there's a lot of hush hush because of it.
Ah, makes
And
total sense.
yep. And so we have stories, there are a lot of stories that are generated over the many generations about Sasquatch and Bigfoot, and these people coming to help the people, to assist kids and to assist the elders. And so they very much part of the culture in that sense. They've provided segue and an introduction and how they worked in communion with each other. And so since my awakening, and since my uncle told me, yeah, you have all these abilities and yes, to be able to assist the people, he did share with me that one of my main roles in this time was to be a bridge. He said you are to be a bridge, and you are bridging the tradition, the elder tradition, to outside the reservation. He said out to outsiders. You're
Hmm.
bridging that awareness, but at the same time, you're bringing what you're learning up there. And he's saying outside the res, all these different healing modalities and functionalities. You're bringing that back down to the land, because the land also needs to have that in its growth, that the ceremonies are not functioning like they used to. And he said, because they're catered to an outdated earth. And
Mm.
so he said, we need bridgers like you to come in to help elevate also to the land, and to elevate the people, as long as we continue on in this ascension process and in this growth. And I always laugh about that, because he didn't tell me that I was going to be a bridge for Sasquatch people. So I was like,
Right.
thanks for the warning.
So now I know you mentioned bridge as far as you taking your practices and your knowledge to outside people that may or may not be part of the tribe, but is I'm assuming that he's also talking about your ancestors and the Sasquatch people and other people to guide people that are still there to stay on the right track and to learn how to
Yeah.
grow, right?
Yes. So it's kind of like a crossing pattern. So it's always going to be moving. He
Hmm.
said it's always going to be moving. And so prior to 2012, he said that the earth and the land and the practices, the ceremonial practices, he was referring to them as outdated, but
Right.
he was specifically from a more energetic side of things.
Hmm.
So he said they're catered to this old earth. And so they were in a stagnation. And so
Mm.
he said that's why we have to come in to create those windows like this, so the new frequency and the new vibration could come in to alleviate and lift it up some more. And so this is where he said that was one of my main roles and functionalities. And like I shared, I didn't know that I was going to be connected years later to the Sasquatch people and also to the Star Nations.
Dude, that's the great thing about opening that door, though, is you really don't have a choice. They pick you. You just draw the energy in that the universe wants you to draw in, and there it is. Uh, I think people like you, dude, are very, very treasured and need to be protected, bro. Because there's a connection that has always been there between people and earth and just nature and everything around it. And everybody can see society today and has been for decades has that disconnect. And I fully believe it comes from that loss in spirituality. We don't have
Mhm.
any connections to what's natural. We don't have any connections to what's under our feet or anything like that. We just go about day by day with all this synthetic and artificial stuff. And then we wonder why depression, suicide, self-medicating, and all this stuff is at an all-time high, dude. So anybody anywhere that's like you, I always think needs to be protected and treasured, because you guys are so important and detrimental. Because at, I can speak from experience. I was a former addict. So I needed people like you when I was ready to make that change, to come out and understand what I was going through and to see the disconnect. So I
Mhm.
think that's very cool. Uh, what
That's why
how,
I'm here.
yeah, hey, that's great, dude. And that's so awesome that you had great teachers that were able to help you fill in that role too. How do you guys, how is the relationship with you guys and other tribes, like other different tribes?
Well, right now, the Navajo Nation, and culturally speaking, from a more how do I say it, anthropological perspective. So from that awareness, the Navajos and Diné people have always been very open.
Hmm.
They've always borrowed from other cultures. So initially, the Navajos were not native to the Four Corners. According to the histories, they came in at a later time and settled
Hmm.
in the late 1500s to early 1600s. And they settled in this area, but they communed with the Pueblo people, the
Okay.
descendants of Mesa Verde and Chaco Canyon, which are the local Puebloan peoples, and they exchanged ceremonial practices. And
Mm.
so this is where the traditionalists, they were open enough to be also too to be the bridge, but to borrow and to incorporate and then to make their own. So this is something that the Navajos have always been well known for.
Hmm.
And they've done it not just with the local Puebloan villages and various tribes, but also too with other tribes of the surrounding areas too. So you'll see a lot of similarities when you start to delve a little bit deeper into the histories, especially with the cultural affiliations and designs and whatnot. Like, for example, sand painting is one of the ceremonial practices that they utilize from the traditional side of things. And they say that this tradition was brought from the Puebloan people, that they utilize sand in the form of healing, in the form of expression.
Mm. See, because I know, I feel like they have, I think in my region, North Dakota, it's the Sioux tribe, and then they have like the Hopis and stuff like that. But you said a lot of it. Well, that's the Hopis are more down south, but
The Hopis are surrounded by the Navajos.
okay, there you go.
I guess you could
But
say there is some tension there still.
is there? Okay, see, I didn't. That's why I asked first. I didn't want to like
Yeah.
offend anybody or anything like that. Um, but I feel like it's kind of like how I compare religion. If you actually dive into the history of a lot of religion, like a lot of them are,
Mhm.
they're the same.
Yeah,
They're in different regions, so they use different names or different settings in their stories, but the stories are like so similar. It's like,
exactly.
what are we arguing about?
Exactly. There's a lot of similarities, and
Because the rock he was talking to, I said was blue and you said it was red. Come on. So
well, I'm all about the blue rocks.
there. You're gonna start something, Garrett. Don't do that.
That's what I do. That's
Right.
what I
So
do. See?
so you said Sasquatch people. So wow. I mean, yeah. Have you? I mean, we're gonna dive right in. It's the open mind show.
It is.
Uh, has anybody in your tribe, or have you been told, are Sasquatches native to Earth
Um,
that you
well,
know of?
when I've had communication, so the Sasquatch people, and it's interesting because when I felt that shiver,
Uh-huh.
you know how you were talking about bodyguards?
Yeah.
So the Sasquatch people are my bodyguards.
Okay.
They'll come in energetically, and people who are gifted, they'll see them and they'll feel them.
Mm.
And sometimes I'll have even also too, like someone's dog, people's pets will I'll meet the pet for the first time, but then the puppies are all like, what the heck is that behind you? And I always know that it's a Sasquatch because the Sasquatch are like literally behind me right now. There's two, and
Wow.
their ability, uh, I guess you would say, supersedes ours tenfold. And they have their gifts and abilities. So they're very much resonating in the quantum realm.
Hmm.
And they that's why they can more or less operate. They can come into the field, into this awareness, and I can feel them. Like you can feel when the shift in energy happens, and that's how I know they show up. And so individuals will actually see them, like they can see their outline right behind me. So
Right.
I was like, oh, you see my Sasquatch bodyguards? So like, uh-huh. Yeah, so it cracks me up every time. They're like, oh yeah, I see them. I'm like, I know, they're here. Yeah, so my Sasquatch guide, the main one that chose me, and I guess you would say who really welcomed me as part of the ambassadorship. He's a white Sasquatch. His
Okay.
name is his name is Uniac,
Unia.
and it translates to easygoing.
Ah, I
So
like it.
he's very playful. He's
Uh-huh.
very clown. He's very in tune with the inner child.
Hmm.
And so he has been with me ever since this journey started back in 2016.
Hmm.
That's when I got introduced to the Sasquatch people. And what he shared with me that their peoples were not always, they were actually, they're not from Earth.
Okay.
They've been guardians to Earth for millennia, but we're talking way, way, way early in Earth's history. They came here from another planet. They
Right.
settled here because they are acting in service to guardian to help provide stewardship and guardianship to Earth, so that the silly humans don't basically destroy and do what happened to Sasquatch's world. And this
Yeah.
is, we're talking millennia ago.
Yeah.
And so this is the awareness that Unia has provided to me. So they've been here for a very long time. Now, fairly recently, I would say recently, just within the last few, couple generations, that's where they have had communication with the villages and various tribal nations
Mm.
and indigenous nations, not just here on Turtle Island, North America, but all across the earth. So there are different Sasquatch clans and Sasquatch tribes that are all spread out. There's some in Russia, there's some in Nepal, there's some in Europe, there's some in England, there's some in South America. And then here in Turtle Island, in North America, you have there in the Four Corners, you have the Northwest.
Mm.
And Canada, I believe Canada actually passed a law a few years ago that protects them, that they're designated beings, like living entities.
Wow.
So these are, it's all about Sasquatches in the last several years.
Yeah.
So they're really starting to show themselves and reveal themselves in this way. And it's kind of like they're coming out of the closet to establish communication with
Hmm.
those who are ready to commune with them, to connect with them on this level. And they have a lot of different teachings to share with us.
Dude, I didn't even I pride myself on trying to be as knowledgeable as possible in the paranormal stuff like that, but I promise you, I have never thought of putting the connection together of Sasquatch being a spiritual being almost, kind of like something that's not on the third dimension of
Yeah.
reality.
Mhm.
Never even crossed my mind. So the fact that you just brought that up was like, whoa. It makes sense now. It makes sense. All
Yes,
the videos when people are chasing them, oh, they disappeared without a trace into thin air. It's like, yeah, all right, they're fourth, fifth, sixth, whatever dimension beings that we can't comprehend.
exactly.
That's
Exactly. Because what it comes down to is the vibration, right? And how
Mhm.
the vibration and frequencies are emanating and are being emitted. So when the Sasquatch vibration is, see, like if you see my hand right now,
Right,
that's happening.
right.
So their field is so strong that it vibrates, but you can't really see it because their vibration is very fine.
You have to be in tune. Yeah, I
Mhm.
agree. So where does when you got introduced to the Sasquatch, was this something that was common with your people, or is it something that what came out of left field for you, and then
Well,
you found out?
I guess you would say yes, it was common because the various tribal members have different stories.
Hmm.
They have their own version and their own connections. A lot of sightings have happened on the reservation, with different clans, because we have mountains there.
Right.
So the times, the Sasquatch end up being seen because the ranchers see them, or you have people who see them run across the road. So they have their stories of their existence. But for me, I never had my first encounter until 2016, and
Okay.
that was where they showed up, just like how I'm describing to you, through Kiwoni, another contactee, and he just showed up and I saw them right behind him, and I'm like,
Wow.
what are those? And he's just talking about it like, yeah, the Sasquatch, a whole group of them are with me right now. And I'm like, yeah, you don't say. Oh my God.
That's nothing, bro. That's every day. It's good.
Yeah, he's like, they're here, they're cool. And he goes, they really like you. And I'm like, okay. And so when he said that, one of them walked right behind me.
Hmm.
So its energy field, like its auric field, it merged with mine.
Wow.
And I started shaking, like, oh my God. I was like,
Really?
no. And all of a sudden, I caught a whiff of this musky, skunky odor.
Mm.
And so I knew, I'm like, whoa, whoa, was this the smell? And it was, and my assistant at the time, she's just looking over like, what are you doing over there? Oh, what is that smell? And it was kind of like broad daylight. We're at a conference and here we are having a moment with Sasquatch.
Uh-huh.
And so that was the big highlight for me in 2016. And since then, they've given me a lot of gifts. They brought me a lot of different things, such as crystals and stones. They've given me their hair. So I
Wow.
their hair. Uniac has actually given me a length of his hair, which is all pure white.
Uh-huh.
And the cool thing about these gifts that they leave is that their frequency and the vibration, when you touch it and you hold it, it still holds the charge. So it's like your hand starts to shake. And
Really?
ooh, hi guys, what's up? There's a he's like, they're very funny beings, just so you know. It's
Yeah.
like they are playful.
Okay.
So, so Uniac's like doing this to my hair, and I'm like, dude, what's up? Okay.
Dude, when you said there was two of them behind you, the OO on my shirt is reflecting off my computer screen. So when you said that and I actually like paid attention to the back of you, I was like, what the hell for a minute? Like what? So that tripped me out a little bit. But
Well,
uh
don't be surprised if they come knocking.
yeah, I don't want no knocks, Sasquatch, please. No knocks. uh
Yeah.
so where does the Navajo tribe have stuff like the skinwalker and ant people and stuff like that too?
Um, yes,
Okay.
they do, and that's taboo. That's one of those things that we don't talk about.
Right.
Yes, it's very much in existence, and it is very common in a way,
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of the tribal individuals to have their stories of how they've interacted with these beings,
Mm-hmm.
with these entities. And my awareness, and that was something I grew up with too. That was a more shadow side of the culture. That's why it's taboo.
Right.
But my understanding now, when I look back, and this is where now you get into the galactic nations, the star nations, and you start to tune into the more bigger perspective of what you thought was your reality, but now it shatters into a bigger perception of the Earth history. So Earth in this realm, in this realm, history stops. And this is Sasquatch talking. They've always said, you guys always emphasize and stop your history and awareness of history on Atlantis or
Mm.
Moria. But you realize this Earth is 4.5 billion years old, And so there were a lot more colonies that were here prior to even Atlantis,
I've
prior to
always believed that.
California. And this is where the Star Nations, because Sasquatch and Star Nations, and when I say Star Nations, I refer specifically to the galactic, our galactic ancestors. And there's a whole group of them above right now, and they talk about the colonies, the various colonies when Earth was first created, and how the colonies came, like they established themselves. And then from there, the derivatives, like different, just like a tribe, you would settle this land and this person go over here, and then they start to intermingle, they trade, they have technologies that they shared back and forth, right? And so that was something that was very common back then. And it's not so much now in a way, because now it's kind of considered make believe.
Right.
Right. So being part of the indigenous nations, a lot of the indigenous have always had these stories of the star people and star interactions and connections, and seeing the ships and seeing variations of the various colors or these dimensional forms. And so in that awareness, that's where also too the Sasquatch comes into understanding the more bigger picture. So it's kind of like you're just one little tiny facet.
Yeah.
So you only have that one little piece of the puzzle, but there's much more that's going on, that's beyond your known reality.
And isn't it so funny how we act like we're so important and big, and in reality, we're just like a little speck of sand on the bigger beach?
I know. It's like yeah. I said it just takes Mama Earth just to shake herself a little bit like this and like check yourself. Come on, human.
Exactly. So I take it because Sasquatch seems to be like a guardian angel, like the good side with good energy. There's bad energy, and that's where stuff like the Skinwalker would come in and stuff like that.
Correct. So thank you for bringing that back into awareness, because now I'm like, where was I going with this? So shapeshifters.
Okay.
So those beings, I'm just going to refer to them as beings, because that's what they are.
Okay.
They were manipulated by different factions of various star tribes.
Okay.
And again, like you said, you have the light side and then you have the shadow side. So which one do you want to control? Which one wants to be in control, which faction? And then within the shadow side, you also have several other factions, right?
Right.
So which faction's going to control this area, this faction, this technology, this, right? So
wow,
that particular awareness around those beings, they were deliberately created by the shadow, because they were to be utilized, in the form not only as shapeshifter, but as controllers too, like a fear, in the form of fear.
Right.
That's exactly what they do down on the reservation. That's why people don't talk about it. It's very scary, and it is a very dark thing. It's stuff that you don't want to mess with it.
No. Nope. I don't want to mess with Sasquatch. I sure don't want to mess with that other stuff. I don't mind Sasquatch watching over me. Hey, homie, you're good. Keep me safe, all that. But I mean, that dark stuff, I don't want no part of that.
Exactly. So that's where those entities, they are created. They have been created. They're also being of service, like they're being deliberately used by these factions to go about instilling fear or whatever missions that they have them working for, so that's my perception and my understanding, just from how I zone into it and see the more bigger spectrum what's going on there.
And what is it about these factions? Is it that they feed off the fear?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the best analogy I like to give, it's like the movie Monsters Inc. Right?
Yep.
So kids, when you scare them, right, it's a battery source, right? We become a battery source. So that's why shadow emotions, and that's also too where addictions come into play,
Mm,
Addictions, no matter what the addiction, it could be sugar, it could be sex, it could be gambling, it could be food, you
right.
name it. If it becomes an addiction, guess what? You become a battery source for them. So that's
Mm,
why they want to keep us in control and keep us in fear. So that way we keep generating that nice, fun battery source energy for them, right?
yeah. And then you don't ever elevate or ascend.
Exactly. Exactly. And then when you try to, that's where they start to get back into your egoic mindset and trying to pull you back down and put you back and rope you back into the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you brought up scaring children and being a battery of energy source, because I'm sure you've heard about all those conspiracies a while back about child trafficking and stuff like that through the government. So like the fact that you brought that up kind of sent chills down my spine too. Is like people are onto something with this stuff, you know, and
Mhm.
it's very scary and serious stuff
It is.
for people who think it's just a conspiracy. So
Exactly. And that's also too, not everyone is ready to hear this stuff.
mhm.
Not everybody is strong enough and capable enough in their own discernment and their own strength, understanding the bigger picture. So that was one thing, after my awakening, uncle had to really sit me down and say, this is what's going to happen. You have these abilities now, and you're going to see things that are not going to be the
Pretty.
greatest things. They're not going to be pretty. He
Mhm.
goes, but just know that all you can do is do your best. I'll be here to help you, but you have the tools, you have the capacity, you have the abilities to transcend beyond all of that. So
Mhm.
don't let those get to you. Don't falter. Don't let it get to you, because he goes, it's gonna be rough. And I'm like, great.
Right.
What did
What
I
did
sign
I
up for?
right? What did I get myself into? That's exactly what I was gonna say. So where are the ant people not as popular in Navajo, or where do they fit into if they are?
They come into awareness more with the Puebloan, particularly the Hopi.
Okay.
And so the Am people are they say that they are in inner earth. So
Okay.
meaning that in our creation stories, in the Navajo and the Puebloans, a lot of the Southwest, and again, we have all very similar creation stories. So
Right.
they say that we've ascended, we've went through 4 worlds of emergence, and we've come
Okay.
and merged into this 4th world, which we're in right now. So before that, there were 3 worlds below us, and
Wow.
and also too in our creation story, we have the flood, the great
Mm.
flood that happened.
Hmm.
And so this is where awareness around the ant people, they say, were helpers at the
Okay.
time. So when certain things were going on in the world, chaos wise, the ant people came and helped the people. They helped survivors. And so now when I talk about the ant people, these are very tuned to the group of star beings, star nations, as I refer them to, as known as the Grays. I'm not sure if
Okay.
you've heard of them
Yes,
before.
I have. Absolutely.
They're typical, what you see on depicted on TV or in marketing material. You'll see the heads and the tiny little eyes, the little mouth, right?
Yep.
So the particular group of the Zetas, the Grays, the different, another faction, right?
Uh-huh.
So there are a faction of the Grays that are
So
of
you're
service.
hold on before you go. You're saying that the ant people are the Greys, or
Yes.
they're oh, okay. All right.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
See
Yes.
it
So that's why
that's
they look like them. So
right.
when you see the ant people, like on the stamp paintings or how they are depicted in the uh, stories, they look like aliens, right?
Right.
So this is where, again, when you delve deeper, this is the stuff you don't talk about unless you're open and awake, aware and awake. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why we're on the open mind show. And I appreciate you for talking about this stuff, because I know there's probably some people that wouldn't or don't want to. Um, that was kind of where I was getting with that, is because I wasn't sure. I've heard stories about ant people and stuff, but I wasn't sure where they were at on the spectrum of good or bad. So that's why I was curious.
The polarity exists both. So
Okay.
meaning that there's always going to, because think of it this way. Earth, this is the home court advantage. This is the playing field. Now you have white and black, the
Right.
chessboard, the game pieces.
Right.
So each faction is always going to put their piece here, put their piece here, put their piece there to counter each other, right? So that's the game that we're playing right now.
Right. So you're saying that there's good ant people and bad ant people. There's good
Yes.
Sasquatches, there's bad Sasquatches.
Yes.
Makes 100% sense.
Yes. Just like there's good humans and there's bad humans,
Right.
right?
Exactly. So
Because,
go ahead.
again, just my understanding is just that when you think about it and refer to it as a game, the polarity of this planet, of what Earth and this third dimensional existence, that's where, depending on where the person is, like in their growth or in their awareness, whether they're in tune with the heart or more egocentric and ego mind based, that's where they're going to start to bring those into existence. They're going to bring that into more polarization, because that's what this planet is about. So if you focus on good and you're focused on healing and focus on the fun stuff, then you're going to be attracting those type of experiences, right? But if you start to dwell, well, you dealt with addiction, and when you're in the low of the low, what are you going to be bringing? What kind of experiences are you going to be coming to you at that time, right?
Yep. Depression, anger, sadness, all that shit. Yep.
Yeah. So that's again, that reality is going to be mirrored back to you. So this is where, in a way, right now there is sort of like this battle / war that is going on, because it's whose turn to take the reins,
It's always good versus evil.
Yeah.
Every single guest that I've had on my show, and you're the 6th episode now, has talked about that energy, good energy and bad energy. So for anybody out there listening, there's definitely something to that. Hopefully you get in tune to it, because it is real. It is us. It's all around us. And it can definitely be a great tool to help you propel in life and in the spiritual realm. I am big into like UFOs and stuff, and paranormal and everything. So when I hear these stories of these people that are well knowledge in it and stuff, they always talk about like a galactic federation. So when you said that about the Star Nation and these people, that's what it reminds me of. Is like a group of different race or species of star people, or aliens, as mainstream likes to call them, that has like a government oversight. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes. So there are different star races, different star alliances that are out there, and they are being of service, in good. And so this is where the Federation is coming together and then collaborating with many of us. Many of us are the Federation. So we are part of the greater awareness and preparation for what is coming. And so this is the next phase of our being, the next phase of Earth's evolution, and the humans moving into the galactic aspect. We're moving into that galactic human now. So this is also too what happened in 2017 at the Sasquatch conference. For me, I was brought on board a ship, and this ship was facilitated by a group of star beings known as the Arcturians.
I've heard of them.
So the Arcturians are very intense beings. They're blue, and they usually come in threes. And they are, I like to make fun of the Arcturians because they, in comparison to humans, they're like ADD to the power of 10. So it's like they move very quickly, and their frequencies is like, they're very distracted beings. And so what happened during that time was I was activated to the next level, and more or less helping to remember the many galactic aspects of me in a more conscious way. And so after the next day, after the conference was over, I was able to speak again the languages Irakara te shundori akandiri shikiri. Tu otandere shikan steria tamo. Yenirakara te sundota e shikiri yakarata in a full remembrance. Eresturo, conscious remembrance. Yakakumu koyanira eretistiri akumu andereshi. In this language, akashtandere atatara, able to speak it openly.
What language is that?
Sarakoshtandiri akura, akura, akura.
What
It's called
language is that?
akura
Akura. So that's their native language?
from Antares,
Wow.
from the system of Antares.
Wow.
Antares, so Antares.
Mhm.
Suotan ikistumoistiri. Iukakashtira. So you're familiar with lifetimes here on Earth, right? When you think of past lives, right?
Right. Right.
So now we expand that to include our galactic lifetimes.
Yeah.
So the Watamatai si sendere si kestundo, akatan, yetetemototai si ke akuatan, yetetira. Now I have access yeriekutan to these other galactic facets of me. Astuaka.
Wow.
So that's
Did-
where we're headed. Areyekumo.
I had a Buddhist on for my first episode, and in the Buddhist religion, they fully believe in reincarnation. And he brought that up. He said people think that reincarnation is just human life after human life, past lives. He's like, but you got to understand, it's the animal realm, it's the galactic realm, it's all this stuff, because once you're the energy, your true form, you can travel anywhere. You're not earthbound. So you could take on the form of, like you said, your galactic former self. That's crazy that they open that up.
Yes, so an elemental form. So from the kingdom of the elves, elvish kingdoms. So this is where I'm summoning that part of me from the elvish kingdom.
Wow.
So this is from the Celtic, from a Celtic heritage that I've had. So it's about the memories. The memories are always residing within our being. And this is where now we have conscious access to it. So that's where I can shift. So when I came back out of this awareness, that was the hard part, because it was like, oh, okay, whoa, Garrett, what are you saying? Whoa, yeah, and pretty soon my English was going out the window. What am I even saying? It's like, whoa, what is this about? So again, frequency and vibration, right? So Star Nations, frequency, earthly 3D form, slow it down, translate it, go back high, slow it down, translate it. So that part had to take some time. So all these languages, took some adjustment for the more conscious mind to grasp.
So when these beings let you aboard their ship, they must have came to you saying, we now recognize that you're ready for the next step, right?
Yes.
That's why you were able to come on their ship.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So there was a total of 4 of us. So there was 4 of us at that particular moment. On all four of us were gifted in taking into sense. And then when we came back into awareness, we had to adjust and integrate back into our third dimensional bodies.
Right.
So we all had different experiences. But again, I walked away with being able to access these different parts of my being, these different parts of the language expressions.
Were you in a meditative state when this was going on?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, because it was outside and it was at an amphitheater, and they had those wooden benches, and we were all laying on the benches, and I was in the zone. It felt like it was a meditation of some sort.
Wow.
But stasis. Okay, they just said stasis. We were in a
okay.
stasis.
Okay. So that's at what's the difference between stasis and meditation?
Muy steady. They said to answer your questions very simply is you shut off the mind.
Oh, okay. I think some people always say that meditation is for shutting off the mind, but I always just thought it was just being in tune with yourself.
Yeah.
So I guess a stasis would be shutting off the mind. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I see it.
The Star Nations have a sense of humor.
Thank you, Sasquatch and Star Nation. Thank you. Because it clicked with me as soon as you said that. I was like, okay. Because I always want to correct people when they're like, oh, you're just supposed to shut off your mind when you meditate. I said, no, meditation is just finding you, the inner you, I feel like.
Yeah. So oneness, as I call it.
Yeah. How many how many different beings or star nations are you aware of?
In my personal awareness, there's probably at least about 2,000.
Wow.
And
see,
not all of them are part of the Galactic Federation, by the way.
Right.
So a lot of them are not even in tune with that particular alliance.
Okay.
So certain factions, certain ambassadorships, certain star beings have sent their emissaries here to come in human form to meet others, because there's a lot of us out there in human form. And what will happen is when I meet another galactic soul, another star person, you just know and you start speaking language. Boom, 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 boom. You're outside the spectrum of English. It's just like boom, 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 boom.
I've never had that with a different language, but is it possible to have that with somebody in this same language, in English language?
Yes.
Because I felt like I've had that before.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Exactly. So yeah, you can have that same experience with someone who's not speaking their star language yet.
Right.
So you still have that same soul resonance. A lot of the young star souls, a lot of the younger generation now, like the kids, a lot of the younger ones, they are from different worlds. They're not from Earth. They're not from here. And they'll say out of these world things to their parents.
Yeah.
So they say stuff that's just like, where did that come from? You know, that's beyond kind of the conceptualized human notion of what existence is about. These are very advanced souls that are incarnating now. And these are the ones that also too, they have their memories intact. So when I meet these young star souls, usually what will happen is I always honor them and I thank them for coming here and being on this planet. And then I would speak to them in star, and then they would just like light up. They just light up because they're like, oh my God, home, home, home. Yes, I go, I see you. Aston steady, Shikan. We are here together, because they feel the frequency.
My oldest daughter, probably 3 months after she was born, she was in our old apartment that we used to live in. And at the time it was a job that I was working week on, week off. So I was at home, or I had just left that job. So I was unemployed at the time, but my wife had gone to the store or something. And in 2000, and I think 8 or something like that, or 2009, my grandmother, which I was very close to, she was like a second mom to me, had passed away. So we're in 2017 now. I swear my daughter turned around and her face hit the sunlight just perfectly, and it was my grandmother's face, baby form. And I said that. I was like, Nana, is that you? And my daughter got big-eyed and just started bawling out of nowhere. And I was like, what did I just do? I was like tripping. I was like, I shouldn't have said that. I'm so sorry. I was just hugging her and comforting her. But I literally turned around and I was like blown away in my chair. I was like, that's my grandmother. Like, how, what? So that's crazy that you said that. Also crazy, I was only aware of 4 main players in the galactic world, which were the reptilians, the grays, the Nordics. You ever heard of the Nordics? Okay, and then the blues that you talked about. Yes. I always forget their name. So when you opened up that door for like the Sasquatch and other stuff, because I've heard other UFO experts and conspiracy theorists and stuff like that talk about there's like 50, there's 100 different races, but they never put names to them. I'm always like, man, I wonder, because I only hear about the main four all the time.
Yes, because these are the main four that have been working with the governments of this earth since the 1960s, since the 1950s.
Okay.
So the variations, the various star elders, various star tribes, it's kind of like they've selected their ambassadors in human form. So the
Okay.
different government representatives.
Right.
So one of the reasons why also too that we're here, because when I say we, I mean others like me who are in human form, but we're fully awake. Now we can speak our language and be like, okay, whatever, right? Because it's time for us to connect. It's time, we're moving into this next phase of our being.
Mm.
And the government and all the world leaders and the shadow stuff of this earth, it's too late.
Yeah.
It's, you guys, you waited too damn long.
Yeah.
And the Galactic Federation, it's like they given enough chances and enough time, but that time's coming to a close very soon. So part of our role now is to prepare many of the masses to say, hey, guess what? We're here. We're here. Why you keep looking up there, but look in front of you. I'm sitting right here. I'm right here. You asked us to come. We're here.
Wow.
We're here. Okay.
Wow.
So there's a lot of humans, right? This is our costume.
Uh-huh.
It's our costume. Halloween, they said. So
They said what were the blues names? Forgive me.
the Arcturians?
The Arcturians. They said that they referred to us as containers. Pretty much it's like skin, like we're just a bag of skin because that's not our true form, like you said. This is just our
Yes, avatars, correct.
Right.
So we're avatars. Estamos tan in human form.
Yeah.
Because in preparation for what's coming, they need humans to see other humans and to slowly introduce that these humans might be star if they're speaking their language in human form. So we're not so scary, right?
Mhm.
Because of what happened, you know, what Hollywood depicted, right? The whole notion. And of course, the government hiding and also government instilling fear to the peoples and to the masses in the form of control.
Mhm.
So that's why a lot of the star nations have to come up with another game plan. So the other game plan was, how about we allow some of our ambassadors to incarnate in human form, go through their awakening process. When the time is right, we will fully activate them and turn them back on to their full state of being. So they have access to all the memories. So this is where the different languages are coming out. So we are preparing. So that's part of like my role now is, again, kind of what Uncle said, being the bridge. So now I'm bridging Earth realm. So having the indigenous blood lineage, and I'm bridging and connecting Earth peoples with star nations. So there's that coming together and meeting other star nations, other indigenous star nations who are speaking their languages. I know several up in your neighborhood, up in Minot, who are speaking their languages. I'm like, oh, I know them. I'm like, okay, you know, so it's just a matter, it's all preparation for what's coming.
Garrett, you're very good. Very good. Because that was going to be my next thing, was going into the Hollywood, and you've got my wheels turning big time. Because I was just about to bring that up, that I feel like in movies and TV shows, they hint to us what's going on, but they do it in a fictitious way, as not to like just blow the door open on it, but to be like, this is what it is. I don't know if you're familiar with the show Stargate.
Yes.
SG1. It used to be on Sci-Fi back in the 90s. I just got my wife into that. We're watching all the seasons again and talking about all this from you picking up the voice with the episodes when he downloads the alien into his body and he's like, dude, this is they've been telling us. They've been telling us. And I've also heard too that even the sinister ones, they fully believe in karma. So they look at it as it's like me telling you, hey, Garrett, I have $1 million, but I'm not going to show you. Ha ha ha. Well, you may think it's a joke, but I told you, so my karma's clean.
Yes, exactly.
So
you want to see something trippy?
What? Go ahead. What the fuck? Have you been drawing that as we're talking, or did you already have that?
I had these.
What does it mean?
These are all star languages.
Wow.
So when you said Stargate, they said show him your latest, and the frequencies change when you shift it.
So they mean something different when they turn. Oh my God.
So like the way Daniel Jackson described it. So you have the cube 6 facets with the point of origin.
Dude.
So when you turn it, each language is going to shift. The frequency is going to shift too.
Wow. You just said Daniel Jackson.
I did.
That's so badass, dude. Oh my
Hashtag
God.
I know.
Dude, only tapped in people would know that shit.
You want to know what happened? One
What?
time when I was so fed up with Earth, I was having a moment, and the beginning scene of Stargate Atlantis, the opening scene when the ship was flying, and then this Atlantis, right? The opening scene of the show.
Yep.
Dude, I started bawling my eyes out because I was so upset, like in the sense of this place is so damn primitive. Oh my God, can we just go back to that same? And I'm crying just really hard because I'm like, I want to go home. Why the hell am I still stuck in this third dimensional reality construct and these damn humans are not getting it? I'm like, I was having a moment.
Dude, I just had a moment right now when you said that. I was like, wow, you're really tapped in, dude. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's why I said you're very good, because before I even went to the Hollywood thing, you brought up Hollywood and I'm like, you're fucking tapped in, dude.
Yeah. So you want to know who sent those symbols and signs to us?
Who?
You did. We did.
Wow.
Our future.
Wow.
So this is where Hollywood, again, Star Nations. So they brought into awareness is that if Hollywood storylines can be utilized to create a bad story, to depict Star Nations in a bad way, why don't we rewrite it and send messages back to ourselves to let us know we're on the right track?
Just like in Stargate. Wow.
Stargate.
I'm completely like dumbfounded right now.
Yep, Stargate. What else is another one? There's a whole bunch of movies. Valerian.
Yeah.
Have you seen Valerian?
Yes, I have.
When they were speaking the language. I was bawling when I was listening to them speak because I remember that world.
Where do these directors have to have like what you're talking about, like hands-on proof or remembrance of this stuff to just come up with this? It's not just out of nowhere. You're just like, oh yeah, let me fucking Michael Bay and the Avatar and shit like this and this Tree of Life planet shit. No, dude, that's from past shit. Wow.
Exactly. So and we sent those messages to us from a future timeline, from a future aspect of a particular moment. So that was us sending back into this moment. Hey, go watch that movie. So a lot of the times, in awareness wise, when I'm helping them to wake up an understanding, I do give a lot of movie references because it helps. Like The Matrix, that's another one.
Yep.
The whole movie, I just watched that the other day again because there was something I needed to hear, because they'll tell me, go watch this movie. There's another message or something you missed. You need to go watch it again. So I'm like, okay. So when I rewatched it, then the important scene, of course, was the red and the blue, and then Morpheus talking about the Matrix and how people will kill who are not quite ready, and then what happens, so it's like all that awareness, that's what we're in. We're in a controlled simulation.
There
So
it
that's what
is. There it is.
we're
Do
we're
you
just here to shift.
do you do they ever refer to you to music too, as well as movies?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm really big into like hip hop and stuff like that. I do hip hop and stuff like that.
But let me
Uh,
tell you something.
what?
I know a few star kids, younger souls. They're in their like early 20s.
Uh-huh.
They are rapping and doing improv in their language.
Really?
I met
Wow.
I met these individuals in Salt Lake,
Mm-hmm.
and I told him, because he was wondering how are you doing that? Si yo cansteri si siara soy sumuanda. He goes, how are you able to do that? So ishtikin yuro. He's go, is it just coming to you? I said, yes, because it's memories. I'm just accessing the language. And so he played his video for me. He was rapping in Arabic, Star, and Latin.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, oh my God. And I told him, I said, that's how you're going to change the music. Keep it up.
And yeah,
Yep.
because I was literally just thinking that to myself today. I'm like, we're at in rap in general, we're at a pivot point where like, the early 2000s had like the TIs and the trap music and stuff like that, where it was like the catchy, like repetitive hooks. And now it's like all this like auto tune and like singing stuff, but it's kind of stagnant. Like everybody's doing that. And it's like, okay, who could do it the best right now? But it's nothing new. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So you just hit the nail on the head because I was just saying that to myself. I'm like, there's gonna be some new style or form that's gonna come out within the next few years, and it's gonna be all the craze. There it is, right there.
I
Again, that's
know.
future us being like, hey, dude, you're on the right track.
Yep. So you're going to cosmic rap,
Yeah, dude.
galactic rap.
I'm gonna have to get on that. I'm gonna have to get on that. Me and a buddy just did a song literally called Ancient Aliens, and I'll have to show it to you. We shot a video for it a couple months back. I'll have to show it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of different species of star people, star nation, aliens, whatever
Yes.
you want to call them.
Yes.
But the Sasquatch took a liking to you.
Yes. That's correct.
There you go. Okay. The Sasquatch took a liking to you. So now, as other people in your tribe, do other Star Nation species take a liking to them over the Sasquatch, or
It just depends on where everybody is in their growth and in
okay,
their evolution. So like if they're very in tune with the heart, because that's the biggest key, that's the biggest thing for the connection, especially with translation. So the heart is resonating at a certain octave. They're talking now, we're on the music talk. So
right?
now they're talking about octaves. So the different variation in frequency and octaves, they have to have a certain resonance going on too in the heart space, so that octave can be translated in a more communal slash best way that they know how.
Mm,
And so as long as they're doing their work and their growth, then that's where the choosing the factor, thank you, they just said factor, factoring in choice for the connection, because you could have be that person that really really wants to connect, and but yet there's still a lot of trauma going on here,
mm,
and that's where the disconnect, right?
right.
So that's what it's like. You have to have done enough of the work. So therefore, the resonance is always going to speak for itself.
Yeah, that's crazy. I feel like if you don't get rid of that baggage and stuff, then you can't connect to it. And this is just taking me to a whole nother ballpark. Like you mentioned, this is where you're gonna break your reality because I'm thinking spiritual. I mean, I was raised Catholic, but I don't really do religion. I don't. I strayed away from it. But spiritual, definitely on a spiritual journey. Me and my wife share that. So I meditate regularly. I talk to what I call the energy of the universe and stuff like that. But it's almost like for me, like putting it in physical perspective for me, because when I think of like energy of the universe and stuff that you can't see, but I feel it around me all the time, so I know it's there. But now I've been on that with the research and aliens and stuff like that all along. I just never made that connection that you're talking about as far as them being your spiritual guides.
Mhm.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, because if everything is energy, it's just all resonance and vibration.
Hmm.
So it's all moving. Simon Doyat. So I just demonstrate again another form of the language. Never yet, I never was able to do this.
Yeah.
Yamboriamosteyaneriam, asteyaneriamoasteyan, sirakamoandeye, sakashteri. So that's the resonance, right? It's the resonance. And the reason why it's resonating, umuanda, that sound, because we're water.
Mm. Mm.
We're 75, 85% body water.
Hmm.
Now you have the molecular structure.
Mm.
So even though, like, as I'm speaking on the language,
Hmm.
it's like you're feeling it, you're resonating with it because you're on that wavelength. So mine's still trying to encapsulate and understand what is being said, what the translation is, but something's going on within my heart being. So this is
Wow.
where the heart overrides this because you're at that good placement here.
Hmm.
That makes sense?
Absolutely. You got to make that trip from here to here. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Totally makes sense.
So that's one awareness that the Star Nations also too have shared when it comes to seeding. As they seeded all across the very, the different star systems, the different planetary systems, when they seed, they use tones too.
Mm.
They tone. They have that's why music's very important. So so you can have that tonal expression that weaves its way through the vastness of space, and it can transfer, it can go through that without resistance and still be in its full encapsulated form.
It's
But
like the
if you were to try to take this third dimensional vessel through that vastness of the space, that's where you have to deal with this condensing,
your flesh, yeah. It's like the Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind, the movie where they summon the ship with the piano organ. It sounds like
Yes.
like all the vibrations. Yeah, that's what
Well,
it reminds me of.
when I teach the star language class and help individuals activate that, because everybody's born with it. They say they have it. What they show me to do is to have them tone the vowels A-E-I-O-U, just like the
Mm,
movie,
right.
because they say the vowels is what's the commonality between all languages here on Earth. And the languages on Earth also have their star derivatives. They
Hmm.
were derived from star colonies too. So it wasn't just native to Earth. They had their origins that came down and transpired, way early on in civilization.
Right. So do you have like a basic form of your creation story from your tribe that you can tell us?
Uh, a basic, well, other than it's too long.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah, it's just kind of what I shared before about the emergence. They say that again, there was three previous worlds,
Right.
and each world was destroyed and consumed by various elements.
Okay.
So the first world, second world, third world, each one was consumed. Like the first world, I believe, was ice, and then the second one was water. The second one was fire, third one was fire, and then second one was wind. Wind. So each moment, the people had to they had to evolve, ascend into the next world. they say.
Mm.
And so when they ascended into this world, that's where it was the previous world was destroyed by water. And
Okay.
so there's a lot of symbology behind it too, but that was kind of the initial creation story for us with the Navajo people. But also it applies not just to the Navajos, but to pretty much all of the southwestern tribes. There's a lot of similarity there.
So did they say that people are from here or were they put here?
They say they were created here
Okay.
by Changing Woman, who is our earth goddess. So she created the 4 original clans. She were she created them out of her body. So she was like the earth goddess. So they say that she created the people from her body
Okay.
physically. So earth, so with again with the Navajo creation story, there's not a lot of star connection. It's very earth bound. It's very earth related energetically. So that's why when this happened to me, I was like, God, how do I even explain to a practitioner now, a traditionalist, a grandmother, say, Grandma, well, I speak star language now. And she'd be like, what are you saying? So I'm translating English, Navajo, and Star.
Right. And are you fluent in Navajo as well? Navajo language?
Oh, yeah, it's been a while since I've spoken because I don't speak it all the time, but I understand it very well, very
Okay.
well.
So
Yeah,
what other gods do they have in the Navajo Nation? I know you said you had the mother goddess.
yeah. So their mother goddess, changing woman, and then they have they call him talking god, which is the grandfather gods. So this is where I think the star comes in because the grandfather gods, they say there's 2 of the main ones, house god and talking god, and they say that these 2 beings only communicated by doing a woo woo woo, that kind of a sound,
Ah.
and so that has that high frequency, like almost like as though they're depicting and mimicking a ship.
Hmm. You said a ship?
Yeah, because the one time I attended a ceremony, it's called the Yebiche ceremony that's only held around October.
Uh-huh.
Uh, they were doing this sound. It's all part of the rituals, all part of the dancing. And they sing this song and it sounds just like that. It's like, woo, woo, ee, ee. They do that.
Uh-huh.
And then I could see a ship right above,
Oh, wow.
hovering right above the participants, the
So
dance.
so there's only a main father and mother god in your culture, pretty much.
there's a different ones. It's not just one supreme.
Mhm.
There's several different deities, I guess you would say. We would call them deities. We just call them holy people. That's how it's translated.
Okay. So there's like what's this? You said earlier that you guys would wake up in the morning and pray and walk to the east. I wanted to ask, what is the significance of that?
Yeah, so that's all part of the practices that are instilled from an early age. So East representing a new beginning, and the dawn, right
Mm,
before the sun comes out, is depicted in white, the color white. So the color white, purity, new dawn, new day. So you always go there to pray to basically set your intention for the daily activity. So
mhm.
that is something that a lot of the practitioners instill to the kids. That a lot of the elders still practice those ways now.
Okay.
Uh, I don't see many of the younger generation doing it now as much, um, and it's unfortunate, but
Right.
it's all part of the change that's happening.
Mhm. I'm gonna have to book a trip to come to your reservation with you and go on a journey to the land. Me, my wife, and I don't know if kids are allowed, but I'll bring them too if they are. I would love it.
Okay, so you get to bring, yeah, and you'll have your experience with all the fun stuff.
Hey, I'm all for it. I don't know if that's a bad addiction, but I'm all for the spiritual experiences, dude. I chase it. I thrive for it. So I don't know if it's good or bad. I hope it's good because that's the path I'm on right now. Uh,
You with along with the rest of humanity.
that is so refreshing to hear and good to know. I had to get off my Facebook a while back because I was like arguing with people like just get it through your fucking head, you know what I mean? Like, come on, man, just wake up, open up. And I'm pubescent in the awakeness. So, but I guess everybody's on their own time and the universe takes them when they're ready.
Exactly. Exactly. And only the ones that are ready are usually the ones that come into my awareness.
Mm. So
Because
that
it's like you shared already, the connection and having these out of these world experiences and being open enough to appreciate and share, that's all part of the role. That's all part of why I'm here along with
right.
others. We're here to waken you guys up to the next level and to wake everyone up to the next level, and that's where we're headed.
So you're saying this show and this episode with me and you is not a coincidence.
No.
That's so crazy, dude. That is so crazy. Because I'll share a story. One of my he's a good friend now, and he actually does a lot of my music videos. The very first music video we shot together, I didn't know this guy from Adam. We immediately started talking about aliens and UFOs and stuff. So when you brought up that when you meet somebody and you guys just started speaking that language, that's what I immediately thought of. But me and him just started talking about UFOs and stuff, and it was as if me and him knew each other for 10 years. And this was the first time with this guy, and it was so crazy because we were in a little city in California called Rio Linda, which people would consider like redneck out in the middle of nowhere, you know. And we're at this little burrito stand and we're talking about this stuff, and this dude comes out from the corner of our eye, and he's like, "What, aliens?" He's like, "Oh yeah, they got bases." He's like, "I got blueprints and videos at my house. You guys want to come watch them?" I was like, I look at Mike, my video director, and I look at him, and I'm like, "Thank you, but no, thank you." Like, what? Like, how did you know about that? Like, what the hell is going on? So that moment right there was a spiritual experience for me because I was like, how did this guy know to come to us? How are me and this guy acting like we've known each other for 10 years about stuff that people don't talk about ever? It was a crazy experience.
Oh yeah.
And that just brought me back to that. It just brought me back to that. I was like, holy shit.
It's all about the vibe.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
So do you guys have curses in the Navajo tribe?
Well, that's one of the unfortunate realities with the tradition, and I see that everywhere, not just with the indigenous and not just with the Navajos, but unfortunately, there is a lot of black magic or spell casting. BS is what I call it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they do it. That does occur on the reservations, not just Navajos, but I see it every res. Yeah, I was up there in your neck of the woods. I went to the 3 affiliated right there at Newtown.
Okay.
I tell you, that place, I was like, oh my God, why are we here? It's so heavy.
The darkness?
The heaviness.
Is it really?
Yes.
Wow.
It's because of the greed, with the whole money thing and all the
oil and all that stuff. Yeah.
But the money, and it gets to people's heads, so it's gonna create all this chaos too.
That's that disconnect that you're talking about.
Yep.
They're not focused on the right things.
Yep, exactly. So it's everywhere. It's not just there on the reservation, but I see it everywhere. No matter, to me, it's like no matter what practice I see it. It's polarity. It's all about the game.
So when you say BS though about it, do you say it's bullshit, like you don't like it, but it's real, or are you saying like it's not real?
Well, yes, exactly. It's like I don't like it, but
Okay.
it's real. Yes.
Okay. Is there is there stuff in your culture to like overcome these like rituals and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are. So there are certain ceremonies and certain things that can be done
Mhm.
to counter it, to bring it back into restoration, bring it back into harmony.
Have you ever been part of that?
Have I?
Yeah, like rituals to do that or seen
Yes.
it?
Yes, yes, I've occasionally had to remove curses or remove spells or remove certain things that uh I guess you would say to have been wished ill will upon family or certain individual.
What about energies or entities that have been attached to people?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll get called to do I have done those kind of things like an exorcism kind of stuff.
Right.
Also to a lot of house cleansings when
Okay.
there's been entities, ghosts, and all that fun stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, Also activity too that is very demonic in nature,
Mm,
that kind of hard hitting stuff.
right.
That's the kind of stuff too that are special cases that I sometimes get put into those situations.
Okay. As a helping hand or something.
Yeah, I have.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all part of the job.
Have you ever ran into cases or heard of cases where people are just so far gone that they can't be helped?
Yes, because I've seen, like, when I see someone, I can read them and I could, like you said, they're so far gone, there's really not much to that can be done.
Hmm.
It's like they're done. It's
Yeah.
like you're done. There's not much I can do. There's nothing left. There's nothing to work with, you know?
Mm,
So sometimes those are unfortunate realities. So because there's a certain agreements that have to be abided by both factions, by all sides when you're dealing with that stuff. If
right.
like like you were sharing about the kids and conspiracy theory, it's kind of like when someone does sell their soul and make an agreement with a darker entity, I can't intercede because they made that agreement.
Right.
So I can't go in there to try to save them,
Is
even
there
though their parents or even though a loved one's trying to come in and say, can you, I can't, because that's their own free will
right?
and I can't do anything. So I was like, well, sorry.
Is there a way to like prepare or help what's left, what has already left them and gone in the next ascension or the next phase, or
Like in their
is
next incarnation.
right, or say like you just use the example of selling your soul to the devil. Does that mean that you can no longer ascend, like it's held by that darker energy, or is there a way that you guys can help that energy to move on after this dead shell's just been taken over?
It can only be assisted if their agreement is rescinded. So
Okay.
maybe that person has to go through their own free will and declare their sovereignty to to
Mm,
to go into um, wanting to do the work, wanting to make amends and forgive themselves, but also to, they have to really go deep. And a lot of times humans won't go there
well,
because
yeah.
they won't.
Basically, you're saying that when you're too far gone, you're pretty much on your own up to a point.
There's always the chance to rebound, but it's a very slim chance.
Mhm. Yeah.
But it really depends on the person. If they have the capacity and if they have the will, if they have a strong will and the urge, then yeah, that spark never dies
Mhm.
because it's all about vibrancy and frequency. See, so just because the light's been diminished in their field, it doesn't mean it's gone out completely. But if they allow themselves to start to do the work and to release things and let things go, forgive, then that diminished light is going to charge back, start to grow again. See,
Right.
So, but they have to be the one to make that choice. We can't intercede unless they're ready.
That's what I was gonna say too, because you talked about, you know, the Sasquatches being your bodyguards and your guardian angels, or what other people would probably refer to as guardian angels. But
Mhm.
do you know, or do you know of if they intervene without you wanting them to sometimes?
Yes.
Okay.
Um, yes, they will. So they will, because a lot of times I'm not even aware of it. I think more in a three-dimensional construct, conscious human form,
Mhm.
not aware of it.
Right.
But higher plane, probably in that awareness, there's an agreement. Okay, this is, you're going to intercede. This is the type of thing you're going to do. This is where you're going to help. So in that instance, I can see the knowledge being there, the awareness being there.
Right. So where does the holistic medicine come in on this side to reel it back into the ground stuff? I know we went pretty full bore there for a minute.
The holistic stuff.
Yeah. So are you like a full practitioner in that, or is it just
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so I do this 24/7. This is
okay?
primarily what I do, is the uh for IRS purposes, it's called life coaching.
Okay, life coaching. There you go. Duly noted.
But but what distinguishes it from actual life coaching is I call it intuitive life coaching, right? So that's where awareness wise, um, giving insight, so doing a reading, getting in, moving more awareness to what's going on, and then providing energetics to help with the healing, like to help with the solution. Whether it's speaking star, because sometimes it's they just need that reinforcement. I'm speaking star to them, and they're like, "Oh my God, I'm feeling a shift in energy." I'm like, "We're done.
Yeah. You're helped. You're cured.
We're done." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Or if it takes a little bit of hand holding, sometimes that person needs that.
Right.
That's a,
So
it's a couple different things. It just depends on the situation and depends on the person.
do you ever point to people like natural roots or spices or stuff like that too? Is that part of your guys' ceremony, or
Yeah, we do have herbals that are utilized, especially when it comes to banishing rituals. So
okay?
like for house cleansings or anything that have to do with spirits and ghosts.
Hmm.
So we utilize different types of herbs to help neutralize that.
Okay. Like which ones, if you don't
Um,
mind?
you're probably I wouldn't even know what these mixtures are.
Oh, okay.
They're native to the lands on the
Okay.
reservation, and it's a group of different types of herbs.
Okay. Because I know for like my personal health, I take like turmeric daily. I take Irish sea moss capsules, this stuff called Shilajit, and it's tar from the all
Yes,
time. You know what it is? Oh,
from
okay.
Himalayas, yes.
Yes,
From
you're all gamed
Himalayas.
up on that with the folic acid and stuff like that.
Yep. And
So
you know the story behind that, right?
behind the Shilajit,
Yeah, so the Shaolin monks use that.
uh-huh,
So that's how they were able to harness their chi and exercise like their abilities,
uh-huh.
because that shilajit has certain minerals that the body needs, that it basically to help the body channel and
Hmm.
harness more of that chi. So when
Mm.
Shaolin monks do their movements and whatnot, they can, do their energy balls and do all that fun stuff.
See, what got me onto it was I was researching that when supposedly scientists discovered it. I think it was in the 40s and 50s. They were in the Altai Mountains, and this species of monkeys was chewing on big handfuls of it. And they started studying these monkeys, and they're like, what the hell is this tar? Well, they found out that from eating this tar, that the same species of monkeys in other regions, that in this particular region where they were eating the tar, they were living longer, they were more able, they were more athletic, all kinds of stuff. So they started looking
Mhm.
into it, and that's what really turned me onto it, and about the folic acid, and like you said, the minerals and stuff. So that's stuff that you're all for. You push stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
All that natural stuff.
Yeah, definitely. It comes from the earth. So a lot of the frequency uh, of the planet and the vibrancies of the different medicines, if you
Mhm.
harness and utilize it correctly, then yeah, the solution and the ability for the capacity for the body to heal will be supported. So
Mhm.
it just depends on what you're needing.
So now, uh, do you guys use certain like psychedelics and stuff?
Mm-mm.
No?
Not in the tradition. No, there was no introduction of any type of hallucinogens that were
Mhm.
part of the cultural, like part of the actual ceremonies, what they called traditional.
Mhm.
Right now, since the 1950s, fairly introduced fairly recently, peyote was
Okay.
part of the movement of the Native American church, what they call Native American church. So the peyote practitioners and peyote ceremonies, that's also right now very strongly utilized, but
Okay.
it was never part of the people until the 1950s.
So that's almost like some new age practice.
Kind of, yeah, but
Okay.
the way they utilize it, it's done in such a ceremonial way that it's not it's I don't I understand why they call it church, but it's not even a church. It's not even a religion organized. No, it's like when you participate in that ceremony, it's all ceremonial in nature the whole entire time.
What are they using it for?
It just depends. So it depends on what you're needing. It could be for healing, it could be for energetic reinforcement, it could be support. Yeah, but it just depends. You just basically, just like with any hallucinogen, you have to set an intention.
Okay.
Mhm.
So can you walk me through one of these, I guess you could call them expeditions or spiritual journeys that you take people on through your land?
Well, we end up, so the place, it's at my family sheep camp,
Uh-huh.
and it's basically the nearest neighbor is about 3 miles away. It's in the middle of the mountains. There's no running water. There's no electricity. The nearest grocery store is probably about 40 miles away. So
Wow.
very disconnected. There's
Mhm.
not even cell signal there. And so it's kind of like when you go in, you're very much at the mercy of what this nature and natural surrounding has to offer.
Right.
Very desolate in that sense, energetically, in that sense. But when you're awake and aware, when you go there are a lot of places, sacred places, a lot of portals, a lot of vortexes that are in the area, that are connected not just to Sasquatch, but they're connected also to like fairies, or they're connected to other elementals. There are two Sasquatch ancestral graves
Mm.
there as well that we've done a lot of work with, that they've given us permission to utilize to assist with healing. And so these connections, as you're awake, you'll feel the resonance of the energetics of the land. So it'll start to heal as well as tune you in even more, and then you open up more of your abilities while you're there as well.
So do you have like a planned out like itinerary that you take them through? And is this like a multi-day thing or just like overnight or?
Normally it's about, I usually will take about 4 to 5 days there,
Mhm.
and there's not too much of an itinerary, just in the sense of showing up.
Right.
But when you get there, because you don't have to walk very far from this camp to have an experience,
Mhm.
and it happens during the day as well as at night. Now, Sasquatch does show up at night because they come out freely. So not talking their quantum form, I'm talking their third dimensional form,
Right.
because um, they're not harassed by your typical video crew finding Sasquatch people.
Right.
So you want to connect, intention is to commune and connect on a more heart to heart level, on a more spiritual level. And
Okay.
so therefore, what will happen is they'll show up, they'll start to walk amongst the group, like walk amongst the tents and whatnot. And you can feel them, like you can hear them walking around. And
Wow.
they don't harass, they don't bother. There's nothing scary about them because you're connecting to them on that level, on that heart to heart level.
Do you take kids on there too? Like, are people
Yes.
allowed to bring their kids? Okay.
Yes.
How many people are usually in a group when you're doing
The
this?
biggest we've had was about 36.
Oh, wow.
So usually I try to keep it to below 10 because
Uh-huh.
that way it's more manageable and it's more connected, more closely connected with everybody.
It's probably more personal, I would guess, right?
Yes,
For
exactly.
people. Right.
Mhm.
So is it like camping pretty much? Are people
Yes.
going out there with their tents and stuff and
Yep.
then okay.
Exactly.
I,
Exactly.
do you guys do any like rituals or dances or anything like that while you're out
No,
there? No?
no, we don't need
Okay.
to.
Yeah, okay. It's just on and cracking as soon as you get there.
Yep.
Okay. So that's where the itinerary doesn't come in. You just show up and you kind of listen and let the universe lead the way.
Exactly.
Very cool, dude. I am all for it. You got campfires? Is there
Yes.
campfires out there?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to plan something and get out there.
All right. Well, we'll make it happen.
Absolutely. So
Awesome.
other than that, man, I think that covers it, dude.
All right.
So
Awesome. Awesome. It was good chatting with you, Mr. Rob.
yes, I appreciate you coming on, Garrett. And for anybody out there who needs help holistically or with healing and stuff, we'll get his info at the end of the show. Do you have a website?
Yes, NavajoIlluminations.com.
Okay. And what are your do you have an Instagram and a Facebook or just a Facebook?
Just the Facebook.
Okay. And where can they
Mhm.
reach you out on there?
The same thing, Navajo Illuminations.
Okay. And we'll go
Mhm.
ahead and share that with everybody at the end of the show.
Yep.
Um,
And there's
so
also on YouTube, I do have several documentaries in which I participated in. Talking about the Sasquatch people. So Sasquatch Speaks. So this is one of the documentaries that I participated in.
okay, and that's the title of it.
Mhm.
Sasquatch Speaks. All right.
Yes,
There you go. For
exactly.
anybody who's interested, check it out. Again, Garrett, thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Sasquatches and Star Nations, for being part of the show. And I look forward to having you on again here pretty soon. We could check
All
in.
right. Well,
So,
sounds like a plan, Mr. Rob.
all right, Garrett, have a good night.
You too.
All
Bye-bye.
right. All right. Bye.